Well, good afternoon back, and many thanks to Sarah for this introduction and the exercises, because I think this is one of the most difficult speeches that I have to have. It's after lunch break. You all want to sleep or do something else. And I have to tell you about the future, which is always very complicated. I can only try to give you some hints, some ideas of what I think could be the future. And as Janice Roca did, we did not agree on each other, but I will also have first a short look into the past, because it always helps us to see where we come from, where we are actually, before going into the future. And then I will tell a little bit about some mega trends. I will explain what I mean with that as key drivers for the future. I will try to explain a little bit how I could see how mountain value chains will evolve, and then finally provide some key findings out of that. I will try to do it also with a lot of pictures, and you're certainly familiar with some of these pictures. They will remind you of your areas, the most beautiful areas that you're coming from. These are, of course, Swiss pictures. Mountain areas and the mountain value chains are always evolving, are always transforming, and this is for me one of the key messages today. We have sometimes the impression that everything is fixed, we are in a situation and nothing changes. But if we look back, then we will immediately see that it has always transformed. We have been seeing mountain areas as exclusively rural farming areas. These are the old pictures on the one side. Then we have this tradition which is still living today, but we have also the agricultural sector which is much transforming today into smart farming and such things. So this is completely different from what we had 100 years ago. This is the same for all the other value chains, of course. Just to speak about some of them, which is, for instance, the wood sector, which is, we often forget, one of the most important ones. If we speak about coverage of the terrain, of the surface, it's in some countries even more than the agricultural surface. So also the forestry sector is completely changing today, also with digitalization, etc. And in some areas we have a new tradition which is going to be built up. We have, for instance, this hotel at the bottom, which is in one of my mountain areas, which is built entirely of local wood. So we try even to bring that, not only local products, food products, but also local wood into the sensation of the customers. And if you speak about mountain areas, it's also about production of energy, of course. Production of water energy, we were strong. We are still very strong. But we are also trying to evolve into new renewable energies. I think in a lot of countries, you have the windmills on top of the mountains. What we are trying to do is now to do solar panels on top of the mountains, which is not always easy to realize, but we have a topic going on that. So that we really try to reinforce this role of batteries, energy batteries of mountain areas. And we often, I can only stress it, we often forget the importance of industry in mountain areas. This is my hometown, and this is also my political and personal background. This is Visp in the canton of Valais, which is dominated by industry since 1905. This was a heavy industry in the sense of chemistry. Today, it's the same village. 120 years later, we are producing, for instance, the vaccine against COVID, 50 meters from my home. So this is high technology in mountain areas. We often forget that this is also mountain areas. And if we are speaking about mountain policies, it is not only agricultural policy, it is integrated policy talking about all these value changes. Tourism, of course, I will not lose many words about that. Each of the slides could deserve a book for a researcher of how the mountain value chains evolved. From really the Belle Epoque, the mountain tourism which developed, into today what we could call the Instagram tourism. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the picture on the right side on top with this lake, that's the lake of Brienz. It was a series which was produced in Korea. I don't know it personally, I've not seen it. And there is a love story going on that place. So from now on, there are Koreans coming really in masses on that, just to take the picture. This is a kind of over-tourism generated by the film industry and evolved then through Instagram, etc. So this is a new phenomenon that we have to deal with, which changes also the way we produce tourism. So these are our main value chains. Of course, I could add other ones, but this leads us to the perception, and this is the Swiss picture. I know that it's a little bit different in the different countries. This is the Swiss picture of how the sectors have evolved. You have the green line since 1970 to 2022. The green line is agriculture, which is today only 7% in mountain areas. We still have a very important secondary sector with industry, but finally, we are also services. We have transformed into an industry based on services. So our mountain policies must take that into respect. The change is there, it is happening. That was the look into the past. It changes also with the population. 1941, that was almost the year that we were founded. We were founded in 1943. The youth dependency rate, for instance, in the canton of Valais, now I try if it is working. That's this part. The youth dependency rate was about 60 to 70%. These were the big families with 6, 7, 8, 10 children. So we had to build schools. The youth dependency rate today has completely changed. Today we have not to build schools. We have to build houses for elderly people. This is the reality. You can also see it here on these slides. I have to explain it. You have the youth dependency rate on this slide. The gray one is for the mountain areas. The blue one is the Swiss medium. And the red is for the urban areas. You see that we are affected most by the change, and above all by the old dependency ratio, where we are highly above the federal level. So we are the first to be affected by demographic change. The representative from Catalonia was really good in presenting this topic before. So this is a little bit the situation, a look backwards. And now the question is, how will this evolve? I can only give you some ideas for reflection. And I was member of the Council of Spatial Development in Switzerland, which is an extra parliamentary commission, whose role is to give advice to the federal government. And in this commission, we identified 6 megatrends for spatial development. Most of them will look familiar to you, but some maybe not. And I will explain each of them afterwards. So we have the demographic change and migration. That's clear for everybody. The climate change, we are talking a lot about it. We have the global value chains versus the local value chains. We have also digitalization. We had already a presentation about that. But we have also individualization of the society and polarization of the society. This has also spatial impacts, very strong ones. And we have also an increased need for security on different levels. This has also spatial impacts. I will try to give you some hints on that, and with that also look into how the mountain value chains might evolve in the future. Demographic change was already addressed this morning, also in the panel. And I'm very happy about the work that Euromontana has already carried out on the topic of silver economy. Because if the population is aging, then silver economy is the keyword. There are new clients, especially in tourism. How many tourism destinations are focusing today on silver tourism? Hardly anyone. I know Laura has done a lot of work on that topic also, but there is a huge potential. This is the market that is increasing most. And most of our promotional agencies still work on families, having fun in the nature, etc. But this is not the future. Are they aware of that? So there is some potential that needs to be explored. It has already been explored in some projects. There are potentials in that. But if you're speaking about the aging of population, then we must also develop in our mountain municipalities policies for that. Also in our region, our cantons at national level. Do we have that? Do we really have a policy for aging, for elderly people? I can only speak for Switzerland, knowing that most mountain villages do not have a policy for elderly people. They do not know how to deal with this phenomenon. And we are the ones most affected by it. So we should react first and not wait for the others to move. So this is also something to do. And our mountain economies, they really depend on migration. This is often forgotten, also in these all political, right-wing dominated speeches, where we say that migration is something bad. But we should not forget that migration makes our mountains work. Our mountains in Switzerland would not work without migration from Portugal, from Serbia, and from other countries. Not the farming sector, not the health sector, not the tourism sector, nothing. We need that, and we need to integrate them in our society. The key, or the example from this chemistry in Visp, in Lonza, is that today we have in this one municipality with 8,000 inhabitants, 80 nationalities represented. So this is a huge challenge, also for multidisciplinarity, but also to integrate them into the society. But this makes also the society maybe more open. This is also an advantage. So this could be an advantage, and also the climate change. We often think about climate change, which is something very difficult, very challenging. It is. And it needs action. It needs action today. We have to adapt to this climate change. Climate change is a reality. The picture on the right upper side, you see, is Métabier in France, in the Jura Mountains, February this year. High ski season. There's no snow. There's simply no snow. It's 1,200 meters high. Sorry, you have to stop exploring ski tourism in that region. But the process is very complicated. There's a lot of obstacles from the local population, from the local industry, from the local enterprises who say, we have to carry on, we cannot simply stop. So this is a process of transformation, which is not only an enterprise, which says, well, our benefit is not there, so we have to stop. It is taking the whole population, the whole enterprises with in that process. This is a transformation process which goes very deep, and we're trying to do that in the project Beyond Snow. Some partners are here today, and Métabier is one of the partners of the pilot regions where we try to involve this process now. Mainly in the Swiss Alps, but also in other alpine regions, we always think that we are the water towers of Europe. We have water in abundance, enough water. It is not true anymore. Those who remember the summer of 2022, where we had a drought season, where cattle had to be brought back from the mountains because there was no water anymore. We have to do a completely new water management, an integrated water management. I know I'm talking to Europeans who have a directive on that topic, but we need really to be integrative on that topic. We have to deal with tourism. We have to deal with the municipalities, with agriculture, with energy production. So really an integrated approach to water management, and this cannot be done on a local level, because water does not stop on local barriers. It has to be done on a regional level, which leads to intermunicipal cooperation, which is very important for all the topics that we are discussing. I will not go very much more in the details, just to respect also the time. Global value chains versus local value chains. Of course, we are talking about globalization. Now we could say globalization is bad. No, it is not only bad, it has also advantages. I told you this case about the chemistry in Visp. We are producing the product for the vaccine, but finally it is put into these vaccines in Spain. So it is transported between. This is an international value chain, and we are just one element of that. Or to give you another example, also from my home canton, which is the Valais, we are strong in producing aluminium. we have no aluminium with us. But we are transforming this aluminium with us. And then this is, for instance, used in car building, like Porsche. Now, what happened this summer? We had inundations, floods. The industry was completely closed during several months because the river crossed over the borders. And Porsche could not produce anymore. No more cars. So this is global value chains. One simple event in one region, in a mountain region in that case, which also shows us very exemplary that we should not divide mountain areas against other areas. We are connected, we are closely connected. But of course, one of our issues, one of our opportunities is that we are going for local, because local is the other sense of global. And there we have very good examples all over Europe. I will not cite many more of them, but one example from Switzerland is this 100% Puigcerdà, where this is a small region where they're really putting all products from the region together, selling them afterwards and in a tourism area, etc. Then, of course, I'm very fond also of the work that Euromontana has carried out with the Mention Réservée, which has now found impact also in Romania, as Adrian told us yesterday. It has found impact in many other countries like France, Italy, etc. So these are really important approaches also with the AOP product, etc. So there we have really something that we can use in mountain areas. Digitalization. We already have a lot of speech on that, so I will not be too much on detail. For me, digitalization is one of the main advantages which makes distances disappear. One of the main barriers for mountain areas was always distances. Now distances can disappear. But for that we also need infrastructures. We need high-speed infrastructures, which are for me the highways of the 21st century, until the last village. And as soon as we have the infrastructure, then we can think about the intelligent use of these infrastructures, with smart villages approach, with other approaches, etc. I will not go more into details because it has already been presented by Jorge. Individualization. Maybe you were thinking before, individualization. What does he mean with that? But if you're thinking about yourself, your neighborhood, your village you're living in, many people tend to think about themselves first. And this is also true at national level. This is also true at international level. And if you are looking at what is happening today on the political side, with this polarization, that the pole parties, right-wing or even left-wing, are gaining in importance in all countries, this poses us serious questions about internal cohesion. Are these parties at the end really willing to support then a mountain policy in their country? Or do they say that they have other priorities? Is solidarity then really the top topic? This is one of the key questions. And I think personally that, for instance, this is why I put the map on that, these macro-regional approaches are very good. We have these 4 macro-regional approaches actually in Europe. I'm confident that they are really good. And this is an idea of cooperation across areas. And I'm strongly convinced that we have to reinforce the urban-rural linkages, but we have also to cooperate across borders. And now for the storytelling, we should avoid speaking about mountain areas as border areas or peripheries. At the opposite, they're at the center of development. They're at the center of Europe. They're a center of junctures. So this is the story that we have to tell. This gives us opportunities. Last topic, increased need for security. This has to do with what I talked before about individualization. People are feeling insecure. What is happening? We have a war going on in Europe. What is happening to my person, etc.? We could speak now about housing, as has been done before, for instance, on the panel. I'm dealing this 2 years, quasi seulement, uniquely, about housing. Major topic in Switzerland. But also services of general interest. We have a workshop going on that topic afterwards. Services of general interest are the basis. If you don't have the services of general interest, if you don't have the postal service, the energy, the water supply, etc., we are lost. We will lose the countries. So this is very important, and I'm deeply convinced we will discuss this certainly afterwards, also in the workshop, that we need an integrated territorial approach, bringing all these services together in a given territory, also across municipal areas. We have done a lot of studies and projects on that. You find always the links also on the topic, on the slides. I've talked about several individual mountain chains before, but the ideal situation would be if we go one step further, get out of this thinking into one sector by sector. Try to combine sectors or value chains. I tried this personally in my canton of Valais by bringing together wood and tourism. Slide on the right side. I made a conference last year on that topic, and it was the first time in Switzerland that these two sectors met together. It's crazy. It's so obvious that they can benefit from each other, but the linkage must be created. Somebody must do it. And the next step would then be really to go on the knowledge-based economy. We have human resources in our mountain areas. We have a lot of them. And I'm very fond that we have a lot of research institutes also. I don't know if Anna is still there with Edolo. Here, yeah. Super what you're doing. We have Simont in Romania. I don't cite many more, but these are excellent research centers. And it is good that they're in mountain areas, so they're connected to their territory. They can really provide something to their territory. What we must do now is to connect all of them and make them accessible. Nemor plays an important role in that, but make them really accessible to the students and exchange also the experiences. For me, that would be really a big step forward on a knowledge-based economy. So our economies, our mountain economies, are transforming. You have understood it. They are steadily transforming. We are transforming now into a more knowledge-based economy, always based on local resources. We have our value chains. We still need to transform them. We do not need to abandon one of them, but still modernize each of them and try to combine them as good as possible. Now for the researchers, just one slide. The Anglo-Saxons are always speaking about this path dependency. So once that you're based, for instance, on the watchmaking industry, you will always do watchmaking industry. This is the case also of the Jura Mountains with the watchmaking industry. They're really doing that. But also them, they're still improving always. But is this the only way that a mountain economy can evolve? Point for discussion. We see that there are also other models of evolvement. We have also disruptive evolvements. Yesterday, I was traveling through Andorra. I could also talk about that case. Andorra was farming. And today it is exclusively services. It transformed very rapidly into a completely different economy. This example that I put here is Andermatt. This is really at the center of Switzerland. It is also at 2,400 meters above sea level. It was based uniquely on military services. It was our fortress. So all the economy was living on military service. But this military service was completely abandoned in 1996. So there was no more perspective until a foreign investor called Xaviris from Egypt came and said, I feel this is a spectacular tourism area. I will build a mountain resort here. And now it is exclusively tourism. So it reorientated completely in several years. Or, and this is the third one, we should have a constant evolution. As this example from the chemistry that I provided to you before, which started with carbide production and is today doing the vaccine for Moderna. And I would really like you to tell also another story in Euromontana. Talk also about the startups. We have so many vibrant startups all over Europe in all mountain areas. There is one example with a picture here, which is a drone. This drone could be produced 2 kilometers from my home. Could be. All the initiators are from this region, but the municipality, unfortunately, did not understand the advantages of this. There are now 200 high-skilled workers working in Zurich. We missed an opportunity. because the mountain municipality was not really aware of the opportunities. Or then the other picture is pesticides in farming, here based on artificial intelligence, where we can reduce really pesticides by 90%. So there are many of them. We should talk about them, and Stefano, we should scale up. We should really bring this to a higher level and try to explain what scale up means. So for mountain policies, this means that we have different mountain areas, so we need really a place-based approach. We need this quadruple helix approach, which you are all familiar with it. We need to encourage innovation, but innovation is for me mainly in the brains. The technical innovation, organizational innovation, this is easy to do, I say so. But really to accept that this innovation happens, this needs also some open mind by mountain communities, to be open for new approaches. And then of course we need to rural-proof all mountain policies, and now I'm really appealing to you, it is mountain policies, it is integrated policies. We can not only talk about farming policy, agricultural policy. It is very important. It is very important. But mountain policies goes much far beyond that. It is about tourism, it is about industry, it is about innovation, about research, etc. If we can bring all those together into an action plan, into an integrated strategy, then we can win. And I'm convinced that if we're working closely together across our mountain ranges, as we are doing it today, if we continue to exchange experiences and ideas, then we will win. This is the raison d'être d'Euromontana, and I'm very happy to be with you and to listen now to your comments. Many thanks.
Thank you, Thomas. That was a really brilliant presentation. Thank you very much. We do have time for a couple of questions. If there's anybody who has anything they would like to ask Thomas. Yes, please. Have mine.
First of all, thank you very much for the picture of our small but very active university center in Edolo. Congratulations for the picture you have given regarding mountains and the future of mountains. And you underlined at the end that it's important that local mountain village, local dimension in mountains has to be open. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, we have to try to convince the urbanized, rich areas that it's time to collaborate in a win-win interaction and relationship, because it's not like this now. And of course, we can promote this change if we offer, as people living in mountains and promoting the development of mountains, the sustainable development of mountains, we stop to speak about marginal areas, poor areas, handicapped areas, and so on, and we focus on the value we can offer and produce services and products of high quality level. And the question is, which is your suggestion to try to promote this kind of will to be contaminated in a win-win way? Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for resuming my speech in a perfect way. We agree today. No, it is really, as you said, it is a storytelling. We have to change the story. We are not only and always marginalized areas. We have something to offer. We have strong products to offer. We have energy to produce. We are the ones who produce the tourism, the best time of each year. We are the ones who are offering also third places. I mentioned it on one slide, but I did not go into details. So people can really spend a part of their life in our mountain areas, living and doing tourism at the same time in our mountain areas. So there are really strong connections, and we have to tell this story much more. And I see, for instance, our macro region of the Alpine area as one tool for that, because there we have also the urban areas connected with the mountain areas. So we need to use these tools. Also the Interreg programs that we are also both using are tools where we can strongly reinforce these rural-urban linkages.
One more from the gentleman here.
Ungerano with the SIM.
Bonjour, c'est pas une question, c'est une remarque. Merci Thomas pour ta présentation. J'ai vu que la Roumanie est présente. C'est un bon exemple, voilà, pour la recherche et aussi pour les produits de la montagne. Et je vais faire une complémentation, si je peux dire comme ça. Aussi, nous avons une très bonne coopération entre les instituts de recherche, entre les instituts publics et aussi entre les ONG, les organisations d'agriculteurs et pas seulement d'agriculteurs. Merci parce que tu as donné de bons exemples de Roumanie. Merci beaucoup.
Et merci aux collègues roumains pour la bonne coopération toujours.
Brilliant, thank you. If you have a very quick question, then I would welcome that one.
En català?
Catalan? Au français?
C'est meilleur en catalan, pour moi. Merci. No, gràcies per la presentació. Em dic Francesc Villaplana, del Centre Tecnològic Forestal de Catalunya, i els Alps i Suïssa sempre ha sigut un lloc on emmirallar-nos. El que volia preguntar és que la gestió forestal, la gestion de la forêt en Catalogne, maintenant il y a des discussions avec le secteur de la conservation. Alors, ça, je pense que dans les Alpes ne c'est pas les mêmes. Ara passo al català, si em sents... Parlo en català? Sí. Doncs això, que la gestió forestal a Catalunya encara està rivalitzant per poder-se fer amb el sector conservacionista o ecologista. Als Alps la gestió forestal funciona d'una altra manera i volia preguntar com s'ha superat aquesta rivalitat, o que no hauria de ser una rivalitat perquè no està discutida una cosa amb l'altra, però m'agradaria saber la teva opinió. Moltes gràcies.
The rivalry between environmental aspects and forestry exploitation. Was that correct? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We still have a debate going on, of course, also in Switzerland. But really, with our first law on forestry in 1876, 150 years ago, we had this approach of sustainable development in forestry in Switzerland. So from the beginning, this was this trial of reconciliation of the different aspects in our mountain forestry development. So this was not so much a conflict in Switzerland from the beginning, because everybody was aware of the role of especially mountain forestry, also as a protective forestry, but also as a forestry to be used. Before it was, there were plenty of surfaces cut down, and then we understood that we cannot continue with that in the 19th century, and we built up a mountain forestry policy which was really integrative, sustainable development from that point on. This is maybe the response from my side. And we tried also to do a same project then in Romania several years ago, where we tried to introduce then also some labelization, which was strongly needed, and I think it was very successful. So with labelization also, we can do a lot with the PFC. We can do a lot in that sense also. We had a project with our Romanian colleagues on that, for instance. Okay.